podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Social Media Derby. We've got a great episode for you this week. We'll be talking about transfer rumours. Unfortunately, no confirmed signings in or out of Arsenal or Man United this week, but quite a few rumours to touch on, so we'll delve into those. We've got the Premier League 2024-2025 season predictions. Obviously, the season's coming up in a couple of weeks, so we'll go through our winners, top 4, top 6, relegation, player and young player of the season, and best and flop signing. And then we've also got the Community Shield preview as well. Obviously, that's coming up on the weekend between Man U and Man City. So we'll discuss our predictions and previews for that as well. But before we get into the episode, for those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share if you can, drop your comments down below. We've been seeing an increase in engagement recently, so we really appreciate it. So drop your comments and engage even more if you can. For those listening on Spotify, Apple, or any of the other podcasting platforms, please follow, give us a 5-star review. All of that stuff helps with the algorithms and getting our podcast in front of more people. But before we get into the episode, John, how you doing, mate? You all good?
Yeah, doing well, mate. How about you?
Yeah, not bad. The weather's dropped here a little bit, so it's a tricky one. Last week was so hot, and then this week's been dropped a little bit. And obviously, if you've been watching the news about the UK and you're outside the UK right now, there's quite a bit of a madness going on. Not so much in London, but in other cities, there's quite a lot of riots and stuff happening. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough time. What's China saying? All good over there?
Yeah, just really hot, man. Really hot, really sweaty. Dry as well. So yeah, that's fun though. The weather's at least pretty decent.
Yes, I would imagine it's probably the opposite of what we're going through right now. Temp dropped here, yours is high, riots here, no chance there. But anyway, let's get into the transfer rumours then. This segment's probably going to be super quick. So I don't know how we're going to cut this up for YouTube, but let's give it a crack. Man United, we'll start with United as we always do, because I think this will be the quicker part. Still been linked with Mazraoui, still been linked with dissect. Talk of a double bid going in together. Bayern asking for 60 million euros. We're bidding quite a bit under that. Talk of another bid going in. At this point, I just want us to get it wrapped up. You know, obviously the news of Yoro having surgery on his foot, metatarsal, out for 3 months. We desperately need another centre-back to play the way that Ten Hag wants to play. Otherwise, we're playing Maguire and Evans again. And we're doing, what did you call it? The donut or bagel football or whatever, where we've basically got no midfield because our defence will drop deep and our attack will press high. So, yeah, getting dissect in will be important for that. And then obviously Mazraoui. We've talked to death about him as well, and I think it's pretty much been confirmed that we won't be going for a left back this season. So I think we talked about it last week, right? He comes in, he covers right back and left back, just like Delo does, and then we can kind of hopefully blood Amas in as a third choice without any kind of pressure. Who still, for me, even though we got battered by Liverpool 3-0 a couple of days back, I think Amas did decently. And I think, to be honest, we played all right despite the result. So I'm happy with the youngsters that we've been playing in the pre-season, especially Collier and Amas. Oyedele as well looked decent in midfield as well. So I just want us to get these signings done. I'm not even going to ask your opinion, Johns, because I think you're going to be a broken record as well and just say, you know, we've been linked with them for almost Mazraoui maybe a month, dissect like 2 months. Like, it's time to just buy them and get them into the team. Obviously not in time for the Community Shield, but at least for the Premier League first game, I think would be ideal. Rumours out. This one's been a bit tastier. I feel like we're closer. apparently Wan-Bissaka's agreed a deal or personal terms with West Ham. We're just working out the fee structure, and then potentially we may need to pay Wan-Bissaka some compensation. Again, just do the deal. I agree with you. What you said last week, it's not the highest priority to sell him, but obviously he's one of the few players that has interest, and we need to get money in to do the incomings that I just talked about. So yeah, I'm kind of getting a bit of transfer fatigue from all these rumours in and out, to be honest, because I feel like we've talked about these same ones on this pod for like the last 3-4 weeks. So I just want to get that deal done. McTominay as well. That one's a bit trickier because I read some stuff yesterday from Ornstein saying that the deal for Ugarte is basically off, and that PSG is still asking for 60 million euros minimum, and we're not going to pay that. So unless their price changes drastically, we're moving on to other targets. But to be honest, I'm a bit worried that that'll affect the McTominay deal out, because if we don't get someone in or get it lined up, then I don't think we'll want to sell McTominay before we do that. And my other fear is that we then turn to Amrabat, who's, I think, just waiting in the wings for us to come back and sign him after last season, who wouldn't be a terrible player, and he is a proper midfielder, and, has that defensive side of the game, which I think McTominay lacks a bit. So I wouldn't be mad if we got him, but I think it would be, I'd want to get a proper midfielder, like not a marquee midfielder, but one that, I think will be a first teamer going forward with Mainu and Bruno going forward. And I don't know if Amrabat's that player. I think he's still got squad vibes to me. So bit worried about the McTominay deal, but I believe United and Fulham are getting closer to an agreement on somewhere between 25 million to 30 million plus add-ons maybe, which I think will be a decent deal for him. Considering Smith Rowe went for 34, I think Smith Rowe's got a lot more talent than McTominay. Injury record's a lot worse than McTominay though, so I think it just about balances itself out. But I'd still pay a bit more for Smith Rowe than McTominay, so I think that fee's about right. So again, just get it done. Let's move on to our transfers in and try and actually, train and do tactical work with a team that I think we'll have for at least the first half of the season going into January. But yeah, John, so I think the United stuff speaks for itself. Let's just get into the Arsenal stuff then. So we'll start with the outs because I think that's in a holding pattern. Nketiah, again, you guys are talking to Marseille to try and sell him. I believe you haven't got quite over the line yet, but the deal's not far away. I believe they're signing Youssoufa Moukoko from Dortmund on loan, which is a bit of a shock one, to be honest. So I don't know if that impacts the Nketiah one, but I'm guessing you feel the same way about Nketiah and Reece Nelson to Leicester that I feel McTominay and Wan-Bissaka, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit frustrating with the Nketiah one, just because we need to get him out in order to get a striker in. So I know that we're trying to hold out right now. I think Marseille's bid was like 27 million euros. We're asking for like 34 or something, plus some sort of sell-on clause as well. So we're not like miles away, but I think like those extra 6, 7, whatever million euros might be necessary to get it over the line. I think at some point we've got to say, okay, this enough is enough now. It's the 6th of August. We need some time to get a striker in. So that one kind of worries me a little bit more, and the fact that we're holding out so much. I'm not really sure what that indicates. The one to Reece Nelson obviously is kind of like it's a nice to have. If we can get that over the line and sell him to Leicester, I think that's some good money in the pocket. But I would prioritise getting Nketiah out and getting a new striker in as soon as possible. So kind of worrying a little bit, but not overly, not starting to panic yet, because we've still got a little bit of time until the end of the transfer window, obviously.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I agree as well. To be fair, your squad's in a lot better of a place and a lot better condition compared to ours. So I think our situation's a bit more drastic and feels a bit more desperate. Whereas yours is you're doing minor tweaks, aren't you? So I think it's frustrating, but it's more around the fee. I'm just surprised that you're so bullish around trying to get over 30 million euros for him. because I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and Arsenal fans rate Nketiah a lot higher than I do, but I think that's about right. If you can get somewhere near there, I'd probably do the deal if it was me. But I'm sure there's some calculations going on in the background, and there's a reason why you need at least that sum for PSR or something like that, maybe. But yeah, who knows? Maybe by next week, on next week's pod, all four of those deals out of our club will have happened, or at least a couple of them. Who knows? But at the moment, we're definitely on a holding pattern for the rumours out with both Man U and Arsenal transfers. Let's talk about the rumours in, though. So the first one, and the main one really, off the back of our pod last week, talking about Mikel Merino and Fabian Ruiz. The Fabian Ruiz links have gone basically cold. I haven't seen anything out there in the press linking you with him anymore. And the Mikel Merino ones have got super hot. So I think Fabrizio have come out and said you've agreed personal terms. You're very close on a fee with Sociedad in the ballpark of 30 million, 35 million euros. I know on last week's pod you were more leaning towards Fabian Ruiz, but how do you feel now? It looks quite clear that Merino is the one you're going for.
I'm not happy about it. I don't see the play here. Again, it's one of those Artetaisms, kind of like last year with Havertz. That ended up working out all right, but yeah, I don't see the vision on this one. If it's just for squad depth, then maybe I could get it, but I just feel like there's way better options out there. And in this case, I'd even say no option is better than buying him. So, just doing nothing, keeping the team the way it is, not selling Nelson, whatever we want to do. If this is like a swap for Emil Smith-Rowe, it's a really weird one. You swap a young player, exciting from the academy, for an older Spanish guy. That's not that great. It's a weird one. Yeah, I don't know really what to say about it, but it's going to be one of the ones where I'm going to, end of the season, I'm going to look back and say, if we flop and that he's part of the reason why, then I'm going to be thinking, Arteta, what have you done, mate? Because that stinks. But he does this. Again, maybe he's trying to be too much like Pep, or maybe it's just in him to do this, but he does these kind of left field buys that sometimes work out, sometimes don't. So let's hope this is one of the ones that works out and not one of the ones that doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, the general consensus when I watch other content creators on the Arsenal side talk about Merino is generally positive, to be honest. I think you've probably been the most negative person I've seen. And I know you're not being super...
Again, it's copium, right? Like, it's the Euros thing, right? But it's the Euros thing of a player that has almost no, like, real chops to be saying, oh, he's a good person to buy. Like, before the Euros, I'd love to understand who was interested in buying him and whether they were top class teams. The Calafiori one I can kind of get over because he's younger and he had a really good Euros. But we're buying a super sub who's old from a Spanish team that no one was interested in really before the Euros, and we're supposed to be fighting for the league. It just doesn't really make any sense. And Arsenal content creators that might be happy about it, it's copium, man. It's copium. We need a striker, not an old Spanish centre midfielder.
But I think I hear you. I think you're generally right, but I think it's definitely a squad building exercise. It's an expensive one, and it doesn't seem like there's a net gain from it. To your point earlier, like I know Smith Rowe is a lot more injury prone than I guess Merino is. I'm not sure Merino's injury record. Maybe he's also had some injuries, but you're selling a player for around 30 to 35 million euros with Smith Rowe, and you're buying a player for 30 to 35 million euros with Merino, and there's no obvious upgrade. And I would argue that Smith Rowe's, from what I've seen of him, which is definitely slightly more to I've seen more of Smith Rowe than Merino, I would say he's a better player. So it's an interesting one. Yeah, maybe it is a Euros hype, both your signings, but I would even argue Calafiori, I get the hype because I think he at least played a big chunk of games for Italy. He was one of their star boys. Merino, he had a moment. I don't think he even started many games at all during the Euros. He came off the bench and scored a golden goal essentially, but nothing else really. So it's a bit of a punt. Let's see. I do think selling Smith Rowe, you do need some a body in midfield, but I guess it's just not the one you wanted. And I agree with your thought process. Like, you shouldn't really be buying squad players at this position. You should be buying a player that's better than your current player, and then you shift the current one into becoming a squad player or fight for their place with the new player you've brought in. And I don't know if Merino does that. So let's see how it goes. At least the fee's not huge, because otherwise I think you'd actually absolutely be flipping your lid right now. But it's still a bit of a gamble, isn't it? So let's see how that goes. The other left field signing that's come in, I mean, there were a couple. You were kind of linked with Alvarez for a very short moment until Atletico Madrid have basically come in and I think really gone aggressively, and looks like they're going to be signing Julian Alvarez from City for like 75 million euros plus add-ons, which is a big fee. So big them up. We appreciate any team coming and weakening City. So thank you, Diego Simeone and the Wanda group. But the other left field signing you've been linked with is Leroy Sané from Bayern. So not really the central striker that you were looking for, but I'm guessing it's a bit of again, looks like a squad depth move for Bukayo Saka's position. What do you make of that link?
I don't like that one either. Sané's a great player. I think he's good. But why do we need a player of that caliber, of that, let's say, status in the game as a backup to Saka? That part doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, unless you're planning to do something with Saka, I don't understand why you'd buy someone that good and that young to try and kind of be his backup. And I don't think Sané would be very happy about playing his backup, because Sané is obviously, I'm not going to say he's got attitude problems, but I think he's relatively full of himself, or confident in himself. So I don't think he's going to be happy about that. So I don't think that makes sense from a team chemistry point of view. On top of that, I don't think he's a natural born striker. So, and he's also, even if he was, he's not a clinical, in my opinion, not a clinical striker, right? He's got flashes of brilliance, really, really good kind of on the ball technically, but I don't think he's got that killer instinct really to go and smash in 35 goals a season or more. So it doesn't make sense to me again. And these are not links that I like hearing. The Merino one, don't like it. This one, don't like it. It just doesn't make sense with what we need, unless he's going to try and reinvent himself again and he's going to play two right wingers. I don't know what he's doing, but it doesn't make any sense to me now. Yeah, like that would stink, especially if you just bought a Calafiori as well. So no, I don't understand what he's doing, and I'm hoping it will become more clear soon. But I'm hoping that this Sané one is just one of the rumors out there in the ether that's just come out, but is not really serious.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite. I saw quite a few reports on it early in the week, but I haven't seen anything follow up. So I don't know if it's just a Bayern kind of the Bayern agents and media guys are putting out stories to try and kind of hurry up Man United maybe with the other two moves, because I don't think they'll sell Sané, De Ligt, Mazraoui and multiple more players this season. So I wouldn't think that deal would happen. I think it's more likely Gnabry and Koeman are the ones that are on the chopping block than Sané, but maybe it's to try and accelerate those deals. I don't know. But yeah, I think it would be a bit of a weird one if it did happen. I'm more open to the Merino one if I was an Arsenal fan, but I get your sentiment. You're looking for those 2-3% gains that are going to help you in the title, and I don't know if either of those players brings those. But anyway, that's the transfer segment wrapped up, Johns. Let's move on to our special segment of this week's pod. So it's the 2024-2025 season predictions for the English Premier League. I can't believe it, man. I actually thought it was this weekend. I was so excited, and you corrected me in the group chat to say it was next weekend. But still, it's crept up on us really quickly, actually. Post Euros, I feel like we've only had a few weeks, and we're getting back into it. But for this predictions, like we did last year, we're going to do our predicted winning team. the top four, so second to fourth, top six, fifth to sixth, the three relegated teams, player of the season, young player of the season, best signing, and flop signing. So I was looking back on our ones from last year. Both got City. I know midway through I was starting to champion Arsenal, but we both went for City, so we were right on that. Top four, only stinker was we both included United. Obviously, we didn't make it, but we got the other three right. For top six, I believe we stuck. Was it Spurs in there? Spurs. I think I went Spurs and Villa, and you went Spurs and Newcastle, or something along those lines. And so yeah, Villa was the obvious outlier. But yeah, I think a lot of our predicted stuff around the teams was close to, if not spot on. I think the player segments where we let ourselves down quite a bit. Haaland obviously didn't have his best season. We both went for Garnacho, and even though I think he was decent and scored some wonder goals and had a good season overall, he was probably not young player of the season considering Cole Palmer was knocking around. And the best signing stuff, I think none of us got anything right on the best or the flop. But yeah, let's get into this season's ones then, Johns. We'll start off with the winners. We'll start off with you. Who do you think are going to win the title this season? Do you think City for a 5-peat, or do you think Arsenal to break the stranglehold, or someone else? Who are you going for?
I'm going for Arsenal. I'm going to base that just based off of what I hope will happen from the transfer window and what I'm seeing from Man City and Liverpool so far in the transfer window this season. I think Man City's signings, I think overall they might end up getting weaker. Was it Savio coming in? They're going to lose Alvarez. I think overall they might get a bit weaker. I think Liverpool have done basically nothing. So I'm not saying that they're going to finish out like that, but they obviously seem to be very slow on the draw. So based off of that, I'm going to say that City and Liverpool both get a bit weaker. Arsenal get a little bit better, and we go ahead and win it. But that might be some massive copium, but I'm just going to keep on saying it until it happens.
No, I actually agree with you, man. I've also actually gone for Arsenal as well. The reason is just what you said. Like, Arsenal have made a couple of signings. I know the Raya one people aren't counting, but you've got him officially through the door permanently now. You've got Calafiori. It's looking like at least Mikel Merino and then potentially one other attacker. If you were to get those signings in, I think you're looking really strong, especially because of the points you just made. City have signed Savio, but they're going to lose Alvarez. I think that's a net loss. And unless they go in and buy, another striker who's willing to come off the bench, fill also midfield and fill the De Bruyne position at times like Alvarez did, come up with big goals. Those are big boots to fill, man. So I'm not sure how easy it will be for them to do that. And I don't think Savio does that naturally. I think he's a right winger. And if you look at the signings City have made last season, they were mostly stinky. I know Doku overall. I think we're betting on him ending up being a good signing, but he tailed off massively. And Mateus Nunes was rubbish. So Gvardiol ended up looking pretty good, but generally
Kovacic was quite rubbish. Did he come last season? Or was that
he did. He did
as well.
He was just like nothing, like ineffectual basically. I think so. City going into the season with a similar transfer window, and Liverpool have done nothing. So I have to think that logic points towards you guys just about getting over the line. But I don't think any of us will be shocked if City did it again. But I think indications are pointing towards we've got to have a change, and Arsenal are primed to do it. So I think Arsenal are going to win as well. Let's go on to
the only thing you've got to watch out is that if it is Pep's last season, maybe they will try really hard just to get something at the end and nick it off us again. But yeah, anyway, we can move on to the next one. Let's not talk about that too much because that makes me sad.
Well, no, but the indications are now that he was saying he was putting out all these things saying, if I leave, I'm going to say I'm going to leave. Right now, I just say that I'm on the back end because I've already been here for 7 or 8 years or whatever, and I'm not going to do another 7 or 8 years. So I don't think he'll leave after this season. I think it might be a couple more seasons at least. So again, I agree with you. That will bode well for you. If it is his last season, then yeah, strap up and prepare yourself for what's to come. Let's go top four then. Champions League. I'll round out my list real quick. So I've got Arsenal top, obviously. I've got City second. I've got Liverpool third, and I've got the remontada for my club, Manchester United, fourth. But I will say the caveat is huge on both Liverpool and Man United. So Liverpool need to get someone. I know, Kem, our good mate and your good school friend, has been giving us all of his Liverpool copium about, he needs to assess the players. Sure, he needs to assess the players, and they've had a decent pre-season in terms of results, but they need to get some players in. They need a centre-back. They need, potentially another midfielder now with this double pivot system. And let's be real, Darwin Noodles is not cutting it up top, so they probably need a striker as well. So, and if they're not doing any business yet, it's not looking good, bro. So
yeah.
they might struggle a bit more than I think some positive Liverpool fans are thinking. And United, we need to get signings in. So we need to get the signings I talked about earlier, and then also, potentially a few more, a midfielder, maybe another winger. If that doesn't come together, then I think it's an absolute free for all for third and fourth. It could be us, could be Liverpool, could be Newcastle, who I think are a bit of a dark horse this season. Villa, obviously a lot of change in players, but I think they could still have a chance. Tottenham. I don't think Chelsea are one to consider, just because I think with the new young manager coming in, it's either going to go unbelievably well or terribly, and I'm banking on the latter. So I'm going to go for Man City, Liverpool, Man United for my second to fourth. What about you, Johns?
So I'm going Arsenal, City, Liverpool, same as you. And then that's where I'm going to change it a little bit, and I'm going to go for Newcastle. I think Newcastle will somehow get back into this top four spot. And then one of my next picks will kind of explain why, but I think one of their players is going to have a standout season, and I think is going to be the reason why they end up getting that. And then for fifth and sixth, I'm going for Chelsea and United. So the reason why I'm going for Chelsea is because there's something brewing, man. And I know it's not in a good way, right, with the Enzo stuff and like some of this stuff. But I do think that they're going to be able to turn it around at this point. And I also think it's going to be one of those seasons where it's a battle for like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's just going to be a battle between like 5, 6 clubs to try and get those spots. And I think Chelsea might be able to nick it just because of the size of their squad. And I do think that Maresca might end up being a pretty good manager for them. So I don't know why, but I've just got a feeling that Chelsea are going to be a bit better than everyone thinks they're going to be. And I think Cole Palmer obviously is going to continue to bag. I think Nkunku's coming back. Obviously, they've got some decent signings in this transfer window. Obviously, it felt like there was a transfer every 2 days. Now it's kind of slowed down a bit, and I think that they will end up doing a bit better. But I think that 5th and 6th spot are interchangeable. I definitely could see Man United coming 5th as well. But I just think Chelsea might have a little bit more. So I'm going to go for Chelsea and then United in 5th and 6th.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on the Chelsea stuff. I was looking at the transfers, obviously, to analyse and decide who I put in for the best and flop signing, all that stuff. And really, they've only brought in Dewsbury Hall as, I think, a player who will be a first teamer. The rest have all been real youngsters who I don't really know if they'll play. So with them losing Gallagher as well, which I think is a big mistake on their part, and they're looking to try and sell Chalobah as well. I don't think Tossin's going to do anything. I think Chelsea have somehow managed to find a way to be weaker than they were last season. The obvious caveat to that is they've got a lot of young players. So if another 2 or 3 young players have a breakout, like, not even like Cole Palmer, but 60% of what Cole Palmer did, they'll be better. So I don't think it's a crazy shout, but yeah, I would be surprised if they finished above United this season. I'm not saying there'll be a big gap between them, but I would just be surprised because of the new manager, all of these other things going on. I just don't think they'll pull it together. So I actually haven't even got them in my top 6. So I've got Newcastle 5th and I've got Tottenham 6th. So I actually think Tottenham are going to be the team that continues to, kind of build this season. I think the Newcastle one, everything you said makes sense. I actually think they're going to have, it's either a Newcastle or Man U remontada, I think, this season to get back into top 4. And I say it could go either way. Probably Newcastle are in a slightly better position because they've had less turmoil, less change. They've had a pretty consistent team. If they get Gahey in as well, they'll be stronger. So I'm not shocked at that. And even though, I've been on here hating on Newcastle forever, I think this season will be another plus for them. Isak, Gordon, if they can keep hold of him, Guimaraes, if they can get Gahey with Botman and stuff like that, I think they'll be in a really good position to push for top 4. But I think they'll just fall short. And Spurs, they've signed some nice midfielders, all very young, but it's looking like they're going to get a striker. So they've been linked with Dom Solanke recently. They've also obviously been linked with Ivan Toney. I think they'll get one of those guys, and their attack will be markedly improved. So I think Spurs will do well. And I think, again, Spurs, Man U, Newcastle are all interchangeable in that 4th to 6th place. I think any of them could snatch any of those positions. But obviously, I'm biased. I'm going to put us top of that tree. Let's go on to relegation then, Jonts. I'll start off with my 3. I've gone Ipswich. I don't want to hate on McKenna. I've got a lot of time for him, but it's going to be hard. He plays attacking football. We've seen this story before. Championship team comes up, playing expansive football, struggles in the Prem. Too open, don't quite have the Premier League nous. So I think they're going to go down, unfortunately. I think Southampton are going to go down. I just don't like their signings. They've made loads. They've gone almost Nottingham Forest-like with all their signings, but loads of cheap ones. And loads of City young players, which they consistently do. So yeah, I feel like that's going to be a struggle for them this season. And my 3rd and final one might shock you, it's going to be Brentford. So the reason why I think Brentford are going to go down is they're going to sell Ivan Toney. Their replacement has been taken out with injury for like 4 or 5 months already. I just don't think they're going to have the firepower, and I think they kind of flirted with the relegation last season, but I think this season they're actually going to they're going to sadly take the drop. So yeah, those are my bottom 3. What about you?
So I'm going for Southampton and Ipswich because I just don't think they're good enough to stay up. I think Leicester will be. And then the shock one I'm going for to go down is Everton. I think they've lost Onana, who is arguably their best player. And I don't really like their signings. And I think it's about time that they go down. So I'm putting Everton in that bracket as well. I just don't think we talk about these other clubs, right, and the quality of their squad. I'm sorry, if you look at Everton's, it's not that great, man. Like, I know that they've got the perfect manager to try and stay up, but I think it's even going to be the death of his reputation of keeping teams up as well. I think Everton are going straight down. And I'll be honest with you, I think they deserve it. So have that.
You've been consistent with the Everton hate, so I hear it. I mean, I don't love them either, but yeah, I don't know. I just give Sean Dyche that extra bit of credit when it comes to, scrapping and keeping a team up, battening the hatches. Tarkowski, Pickford. I know they've lost Onana. They might lose Branthwaite, but yeah, I hear it though. I don't think it's beyond possibility. But that would stink. New stadium will be ready next season as well. Ooh, they'll be in real doo-doo.
It's making for a perfect story, mate. It's making for a perfect story.
But they're in doo-doo already because they've had about 3 takeovers fail this summer. They might have to come back to us with their tails between their legs to sell Branthwaite for a packet of crisps and a Snickers bar. So who knows? It's going to be it's tricky times for them. Let's move on to the player section then, John. We'll do these a bit quicker. My player and young player, I'll do them together. So I've gone for a bit of a, on theme with the pod. I've gone with Martin Odegaard is going to be my player of the season. Obviously, if Arsenal win, I think he's going to be the key. Obviously, Saka's going to have impact, but I think Odegaard is your De Bruyne, You're Bruno Fernandes. You're creator. All of your attacks, most of them anyway, go through him, and he's just a class football player. So I think he's going to be the player of the season. I think he was within a shout of it last season as well, with how he performed from like November onwards. I thought he just reached a really high level. So I think, Odegaard is going to be player of the season. Young player, I'm going United again. Hopefully this time, second time lucky. I'm going to go for Ahmad. I just think...
Does he count as a young player?
Yeah, he's 21. Does that not?
He?
Yeah, he's 21.
I thought he was older than that. Okay. I'll let you off then.
No.
Let you off.
I'm pretty sure he's just turned 21 or he's 20 to 21.
He's 22, but okay.
All right. Yeah. All right. Slightly over. But yeah, I'm going to go Ahmad. We'll do it based on the Premier League young players. They do 23 and under in it, Olympic style. So I'm going to go Ahmad. I just think he had little moments last season. I think this season he's finally going to get the trust of Ten Hag. I think in pre-season he's looked sharp. I think we've also got a huge opportunity on the right-hand side of our attack. So I think, Ahmad is going to have a breakout season. And I think, it could be a long day for our established wingers, because I feel like if Garnacho continues to grow and Ahmad has a breakout season like I'm predicting, where does that leave Sancho? Where does that leave Rashford? Obviously, where does that leave Antony? But I think that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to be our shining light on the young player side. So I've gone, Odegaard player of the season and Amad Diallo as young player. What about you?
So for player of the season, it was a toss-up between two, and I was actually going to say Saka. And the reason why I didn't choose Odegaard is I don't see his level getting above last season, whereas I think Saka has a lot of room to grow into his position, because obviously last season he wasn't as good as the season before. I think if he has a season like he did the season before that, and we end up winning the league, I think he's a shoo-in for that award. With Odegaard, I think if he plays like last season, it will be a toss-up between him and Saka, but I think Saka might be able to nick it just because of goals and assists. But that's a big if. And then for my actual pick, though, I'm going for Isak. And I just think if he stays fit the whole season, I think he's going to show everybody levels. And I think it's about time that he has a full season of fitness. I know that he's obviously got issues with it, but he was cooking on the back end of last year. And any time he was fit pretty much last season, he was absolutely cooking. And I think he's going to be critical to Newcastle playing well next season. And I think it's going to be like the proper breakout season where everyone clocks. This guy is actually a 100 mil plus striker. And you're going to see major interest from a lot of other parties. So I'm going to go for Isak. I just think technically as a striker, he's going to put people like Salah and this lot to shame. I think he's just going to show that Omri level of tech that we haven't seen in a very long time. And I think he's shown glimpses of it already. If he can just string something together, I don't see why he couldn't go on. If he can play like he did for the games that he was fit last season, and if Newcastle are a little bit better than they were last season, I think he absolutely cooks and ends up being the best player of the year. So I'm going for Isak for that. And then for young player of the season, it was kind of a toss-up between two people. One of them I think is underappreciated, and that's Jarell Quansah. I think he should have gone with England to the Euros. But I'm actually going to go for Merino. And I just think, I know it's going to be his second season in, but he's still really young. And I think he's going to be even better than he was last season in that Man United midfield. So there's a couple of other people in there, but I just think he's going to be good. And despite Man United's ups and downs, I think he's going to end up looking like he's cooking. And I think Cole Palmer, it'll kind of wear off. He won't be considered to be like the young player anymore. And I think maybe they'll allow Merino to be the real kind of young player of the season, teenager style. So I'm going for Kobbie Mainoo as my young player of the season as well.
Yeah, fair. I think that's. I think the Isak one's a bold shout, but I hear what you're saying. If there was an award for player of the season outside the top 6 or whatever, then I think he would have a really good chance of winning it. But I think it will normally always go to the Premier League winning team's best player, doesn't it?
I'm basing this off of who I think is going to be player of the season, not off of whoever votes for it, off it's Foden again because he's God's gift to England or whatever. I don't care about that. I'm talking about who's the real best player of the season.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, let's do the best signing and flop signing. So best signing I've gone for is Amadou Onana for Aston Villa. So I think that's a class signing. Like, I remember when we were linked with him, and some of our big Man United content creators and aggregators was slandering him, saying he was Fellaini Mark II. He's not Fellaini Mark II. He can control the ball. He can drive with the ball. He can pass the ball. He's an absolute monster physically. I actually think that Villa midfield, as much as I like Douglas Luiz, and I think he's had a good couple of seasons, and this might be that shimmy shake thing affecting me that he did against Man United, but I actually think Villa have upgraded their midfield with Onana, and I think they're gonna go to the next level on that midfield side. So I think for 50 million, I think that's a snip. And I would have been super interested in getting him to play alongside Mainu, to be honest, if we had the funds available. Yeah, I think he's going to be the signing of the summer because I think he'll be able to, play a big role in keeping Villa in that Champions League, Europa League fight, which I think they will be in. But I think that their attack might just be the thing that drops them, because I think Watkins is top quality, but they've lost Diaby. They've still got Leon Bailey, and then they've basically just signed a bunch of young attackers. And I don't know if they're going to be able to hit the ground running. So I think that will stop Villa from getting up there into Champions League, Europa League again. But I think Onana is going to be, fighting against that current almost single-handedly. So I think that's been a top signing. The flop signing, you might be surprised by this as well. I've gone for Savio for Man City. So I read some stuff about him. Obviously, I know he had a big season last season with Girona, but he's a very typical Brazilian winger, and I don't know how the hell that's going to work in a Pep system, and I feel like it's going to go kind of like Doku did last season, but worse. And I think Doku just about saved it because he has some physical attributes, and he can drive past people. But Savio, from what I've seen of him, he's very much tricky. He likes to take players on, but with that Brazilian flair rather than like the P&P that you might need in the Premier League. And I just think Pep's going to absolutely smash him down to do passes backwards and sideways. And I think he's just not going to have an impact. And if he goes in being City's main signing, or even one of the top 2 or 3, it's not going to go well. So yeah, I've gone Onana best signing, and I've gone Savio flop. What about you, Johns?
So for the best signing of the season, I'm going for, it's going to sound really weird, but Nicholas Füllkrug. I think Füllkrug to West Ham is, because I'll be honest with you, right? Füllkrug is, I think you saw it for Germany. He's an absolute gunman. I know that he looks really basic on the eye, and he's just kind of like an old school throwback striker. But what else do you want at West Ham, right? I think Füllkrug to go from Dortmund to West Ham is mental, and I would have put Calafiori in there, but I just think in terms of impact on the team, like West Ham haven't had a good striker in a while, right? Like I don't care. I'm not going to talk about old podcast P. He's crap, right? And I mean Skamaka, crap. They've had a lot of really crap strikers, and they've had to force Bowen into the role and so on, right? I know that he looks good as a striker, but he's not really a striker born and bred, right? So I think Füllkrug, whipping balls into the box for Füllkrug, man, it's going to be unbelievable. So I think I'm going for Füllkrug as the best signing, and that's going to be one of the, I guess, weirder shouts. And then for flop signing, I know it sounds really weird, but I'm going for Dewsbury Hall. I know that I put Chelsea in the top 6, but I think it's going to be despite him. I don't think he's even going to play that much, and I think he's crap. I honestly, I don't see why they've bought him. Right, it's a really weird shout. It kind of feels like you've sold Gallagher and you've bought Dewsbury Hall. It's like, I know that they're different players, and that's exactly my point, right? Like, they're different types of players, but in my opinion, Gallagher's better. So I don't really see why they've gone and bought him. I don't think he's going to be very good, and really, that's the only signing I can see that I really super disagree with. I think the Savio shout's a good one, but I think people are just going to be it's the 1 year thing. Oh, they're just going to bed him in, and the next season he'll come good again. So no one's really going to give him the stick that he deserves. And then I think, maybe one other I was going to say was Ian Maatson. I know that he's good. I think he is good, but I think the fee's quite high, and I don't see how he's going to really make a massive difference in that Aston Villa team. So I was going to kind of go him as my like dark horse flop signing. But yeah, that's what I'm going for. I'm going for old Dewsbury Hall as my flop.
Yeah, no, I actually see that. I was tempted by him, but Chelsea's just such a madhouse. I think I just I bottled that one. But also, you make a good point. I think Savio, I think logically makes sense, but what you said is true. He will get the year, probably even more than that, considering he's coming from outside the Premier League as well. So he'll probably get a lot. He'll get a blie from the media when we should really be hammering him. So yeah,
and also
that's
because like in the system, he won't really get a chance to be crap. Like he will be ineffective and do nothing, I'm sure, but he won't be like bad. And I think to be flop of the season, you need to actually have like bad performances and not just get hooked at halftime or whatever else. And I just don't think Pep's going to give him a chance to be bad. I think Pep's going to see, oh, you're not quite ready, and then just never play him, which could theoretically also be considered a flop. But I just don't think he's going to have the aura, the crap aura around him for him to get this award.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll try my best to create that around him because I'm coming for City players this season. So, Savio, watch your back, mate. I'm coming after you. But anyway, yeah, that's our prediction segment. Interesting. I think we got some overlap, but we got some nice unique points as well with our predictions. But I think, but all of yours make complete sense, and I don't think any of them are too crazy. I think you've gone very bold on the individual side of things. But
it's
I
like
hear
a full
it.
crew. Let's go.
Yeah,
baby.
no,
it's the year of the strikers. Let's go.
Couldn't be further apart in terms of style. Like one's like an absolute gunman, silky Henri style, and the other one's like Kevin Davies, but German.
It's the remontada of the striker, man. I think Haaland just kind of dominated the position, and everyone was like, "Oh, there's no good strikers around." This year's going to be the year of baller strikers and just old school 1990s centre forwards.
Fair enough. I hope so. And West Ham, God, they've kissed enough frogs. They need to get their Prince Charming up front. Because you didn't even mention they had Haller as well, who I really like. Big him up with his fight against cancer and everything like that. He's an absolute hero. But when he was at West Ham, it was a bit smelly. So yeah, they need some luck because I don't want to see Podcast P anymore. I've had enough of him. I don't want to see him on the pitch. I don't want to see him on the podcast. I'd be all right if he just walked off into his coaching career. That would be great. Let's go on to the last segment then, John. This will be a super short one. We've obviously got the Community Shield coming up on the weekend. Man City Premier League winners against Manchester United, FA Cup winners over City. So my prediction on this one is I think this has come too early for us to have any sort of impact. So I'm going to go for Man City to win 2-1. But it could even be 2-0. I just, looking at that last friendly game against Liverpool and seeing who we played, I don't feel any kind of confident about the team that we're going to put out. And I can't see how we're going to replicate what we did in the FA Cup final against them. I just think they slapped Chelsea a couple days back as well. Haaland scored a hat-trick. They had a very similar team to what they normally have. We had, I don't think we've, I don't know if Xerxes will play. He might, but I think it will come too early. We've still got Maguire and Evans. I don't think the transfers that we're looking to get in will be in time. I just think we're not set up to do anything meaningful in this game. So I'm going to go from, sadly, my head is telling me I have to go for a Man City win. So I'm going to go 2-1 Man City. What about you?
I'm going for a 1-1 draw in normal time, and then I'm going to go for a United win on penalties.
Okay. How do you think we're going to pull that off then? Because 1-1...
The same way you do it every time, mate. The same way you do it every time, right? Last season, you had no right to win that game in terms of form or the players that you had in your team, anything, right? And you did. So I don't care about how crap or how early or whatever. You've got the vibes. Ten Hag has the vibes. I've seen him in his little shorts, his little old man outfits with the rest of the team. Mate, he's out here. He's fishing. He's doing some fishing, and he's going to get Pep on the hook. So yeah, I think it's going to be a Man United win. I think it's just, the aura is going to get you over the line again, because that's just apparently how you win these days against big teams.
Well, yeah, I mean, there has been plenty of those games where I think we've kind of S-housed it, or, played counter-attacking style and inshallah in a lot of games. But I think that in the cup final, I'm not going to rehash it, but I think it was a bit of a different story. I think we outplayed them, but more times than not, I do think you're right. We have to rely on God, luck, and some individual brilliance to get wins against City or any of the big teams. So
but I mean, even outplaying them, I think, is part of it. Like, you play terribly against everybody, and then you play well against them. Is it like it's not that you're like getting lucky? It's just that, like, for some reason, that match no logic and those kinds of games, you just turn up. So that's why I've gone for you. It's not because I think you'll get lucky. I think you'll just beat them. You'll genuinely just beat them. And I think they are beatable when they play against old ETH and his egghead.
All right, we'll end on that beautiful vision of his egghead and his granddad shorts and socks and Oswegos.
His knobbly knees,
I love him, man. He's like the Dutch Mr. Bean, but I love him. He's my Mr. Bean. But yeah, we'll end on that one. Good pod, Jonts. Let's hope our predictions come true. I will say for the listeners and watchers, the viewers, this season, all of our predictions, we'll be doing a bit of a prediction league, a battle head to head, and we'll be counting some scores. So we'll be doing 1 point, the same as a lot of other content creators do, really, and essentially. So we'll do 1 point for correct scores and 3 points 1 point for correct result, 3 points for correct scores, and we'll do a rolling tally. So I don't know, Johns, if you want to include the Community Shield, we can if you want, and we'll get this prediction league going, and there might be a bit of a bonus prize and forfeit at the end, depending on how we're going. If you build a big lead, we might have to just make it for fun. But if it's nice and tight, then then we'll do some prizes and some forfeits. But anyway, great pod, John. Speak to you soon, everyone.
Cheers, Ant. Cheers, everyone.
Sports Social Podcast Network.